this out, but I think that Allie Rose is onto something with the sass in this poem and the kind of the betrayal that happens in this poem.
It's like when your sibling eats your pudding in the fridge. And
Ah.
you're like, pudding.
How does that make you feel when your sibling eats your pudding?
And I spent like $6 on it, and I'm like,
why would you spend $6 on pudding?
Good pudding.
Is it like tapioca pudding?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I love tapioca pudding. All right, so you're thinking that this is like, so it's not from the point of view of the person who is angry, right? It's from the point of view of the person who ate the plums and is creating maybe some anger, right? And so this person is trying to, I think, address that anger before it happens potentially.
But I think no.
No?
There's
Okay.
not.
Okay. Why not?
At the very last part, it
Yeah.
says forgive me. Like if you say like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
You don't go like, but it was amazing and it was good and like sucks for you to not get it.
So you're saying this speaker is provoking their anger even
Yes.
more. Okay. Okay, so let's start from the beginning with the title, because it's a weird title. Is it a part of the poem or is it separate from the poem?
Separate.
Yeah, and yet when you read it, you want to say, this is just to say I have eaten the plums.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah.
So it kind of like works both ways. When he published this, which he has the best name in literature, William Carlos Williams, like, man, his parents were cool. Which is William Williams. That's all we need. Anyway, so when he published it with the title, though. This is just to say, as a title. And why do you think, what is the this referring to? Why start the poem with this? Amberly?
It feels very offhand, just like
Yeah.
very matter of fact.
Feels like a Dr. Seuss poem.
Why?
Because it feels like, oh, I just did this thing. Quite frankly, do not matter, but I'm still going to talk about it.
Good. So it's also kind of makes it feel immediate then.
Yeah.
This just happened.
It's like
That happened a long time ago. This happens now. Or recently. Yeah.
It's like that literary technique we talked about last year where you like mention something by not mentioning it.
Yeah, what was that called?
Like the opposites?
Something.
Apropos.
No.
What's
Yeah.
apropos mean?
Apropos is like appropriate, right? Like it's like
Oh, I didn't
something is
know.
apropos if it's like immediate. And actually, this might be apropos. Yeah, Allie.
like okay, so just from the title, I can like imagine this person like their sibling or the person that they're talking to. They've been like, oh, where the heck is my plums? Like I left in the icebox.
Mm-hmm.
Like I really, really wanted those plums. And then they know that all day, and then they're like, oh, by the way, and it's like it's very
Okay, good.
it's like a passing by, it's like a passing thought to this person, and so it's not very relevant to them. It's just something that they're gonna tell the other person,
Yeah.
but it's something that's important to the other person.
What is the this that it is referring to, right? Because it's like, it could either be the words themselves. You could just be saying to someone, oh, this is just a warning to you, and then you say the thing, right? Or it could be a physical object, couldn't it? It's referring a little bit to the genre of the piece. Yeah.
I was just gonna say to Allie Rose's whole thing where she believes they can be like a sibling actually eating a plum, and that this poem is pretty straightforward. It was actually talking about a plum, doesn't have like some secret meaning like most poems. When you do something that you don't want your sibling to know, because especially if they're like your older sibling, because you know you'll get whooped like that. You don't say it like that. You don't go tell them, oh, I ate your plums, because that's like, oh, I'm such a big. No, you don't say that. Because realistically, if you do something that you know you weren't supposed to, you don't go telling people about it.
What would you do with your siblings if they ate your plum and this was the way you were gonna phrase it? Would you go tell them, or how would you?
I would cry in front of them and make them feel bad as the tear rolled down.
But let's say you're this speaker and this is how you put it. Would you tell it to them to their face?
No, I would say it to somebody else.
Say to somebody else, and then that person could relay it to them,
Yeah.
maybe. Okay, Brooklyn?
I think it's interesting, like how he says this is just to say, like you can think of just like I'm
Good.
just saying this, but you can also think of it like this is just to say, like I'm justifying this, and it kind of gives this like already this notion, like, there's not really sorry, because he's already like justified it by like
Good.
the end line. Like, they were so delicious. And
Okay, good. So here I am saying that my poem, to excuse my behavior here, is actually justice, and I am providing you with justice through this poem. Or it can be the way that other people are interpreting it, which is like flippant and like it's just to say, like, no big deal, I ate your plums, you know? Amberly?
It can also be like referring to the actual poem itself. It can be like there's no proof to what I've done. It's like it's just like out in the open. Or it could just be like, I needed to write a poem, so this was like something really matter of fact that I thought of, and it still like elicits that emotional response. It's like
It's just nothing, it's just a
Yeah,
poem.
it's just
It's just,
nothing.
don't worry about it, it's a
so
poem.
don't even analyze it.
Good, so the just here, so we're thinking of it as a bit of a pun, I think. The word has a few different meanings. The just could be referring to the poem itself, like it's just a poem, it's just a story, stop getting angry about your pudding. Or it could be just like flippant, like casual, you know, whatever, you didn't really care about these plums, so it's fine. Or it can be a kind of justification. I am going to give you a justification for why I ate the plums. And you've got all three right up front there. All right, what I think it's interesting that this starts with I, so the speaker seems to be taking responsibility right off the top, saying like personal pronoun, I, and then we have it, and I never remember grammar terms, but have eaten in the past, right? And it's not I ate, it's I have eaten. Why do you think that he says it that way instead of I ate the plums? Yeah.
It's a statement rather than like because like if you say I ate it, then it's like you're confessing, but this is very like strong in stance.
Good, less confessional. Okay. Does anyone else want to say that's true, disagree with it? Why I have eaten rather than I ate. If I were your teacher, this person's teacher, I'd say just use past tense here. This clutters it up. Amberly?
It's kind of like, I don't know, kind of childlike. Like, it kind of goes along with like just as in like justice, because it's like it's almost like they're swearing, but it's like I have eaten the plums. It's like very formal, but like to a fault.
Oh, like I do declare or something.
Yeah.
Like it seems redundant. It's so there's too many words there. Okay. Yeah, there's something about I have eaten too that suggests the process of eating to me more than I ate. I ate feels solidly in the past. I have eaten stretches out that process of eating for me so that I think more about the action. I have eaten the plums. Okay, now this poet chose to use plums as the fruit that has been eaten. Why plums? Just like we did with houses and doors. Tell me about plums. Yeah.
They're a small little purple fruit. And they can be sweet, but you have to wait until they're just perfect. And sometimes it's hard to get in between the place where it's ripe and where it's rotten. And then, yeah, that's all I can think of.
I love that. They have to be perfect ripeness, right? Or else they're going to either be that mealy kind of texture or they're going to be so sour. Yeah, Jaden.
It makes me think of like in The Grinch, where all the kids are counting the plums in their head, and it's like a dreamy theme.
Yeah.
Really like magical.
Yeah, plums are somehow more magical than apples, aren't they?
Yes.
And they're more magical than oranges. Why is that?
They're less common.
Okay, so maybe they're not apples and oranges. They're not like as common, even though you can find them anywhere. It's like when you go to the grocery store, there's usually only like 2-3 varieties of plums, but there's like 10 varieties of apples. Okay, Brooklyn?
Yeah, I think like just part of the word plum, it's just like so like perky and just like I don't know
Yes.
how to describe it. Just like,
Everyone
yeah.
say it. Just kind of stretch out. Plum. Feel how it feels in your mouth. Plum. Plum. It's got at the end, right? Like when you look at a plum, you're like and it's part of the word. Yeah, Allie.
If you decide to like eat plums, then like you're very. It's probably like maybe it's like their favorite fruit. and it's like something special because it's like it's not common. It sounds cool, and like it has pretty color, and it tastes really good when it's nice and ripe.
Yeah.
So maybe it's the other person's favorite fruit.
Okay, good. So it's not something just ordinary. It gives it a more special quality to it. And the plums, to me, it really is important to like feel how it sounds in your mouth because it's like round. It's a pleasant word to say. It's not like a word like, actually orange is a perfect example. Orange is a very ugly word to my mouth. Orange. And you have to like, you have to kind of like grimace when you say orange and it gets stuck in your throat. Oranges are delicious, but the word gets stuck in your throat. Plums is like a beautiful word to say. It's satisfying to say it even. Plums.
Oranges are gross, and like you bite into them and they spray in your eyes.
So the oranges are more dangerous than plums. You could choke on the pit.
Then you don't eat the pit.
You don't spray orange juice in your eyes either. Yeah.
I feel like in a way that plum is associated with only like really pretty and perfect kind of thing. But then the thing where he's saying like, I have eaten these plums, these things that you think are pretty, and that these things that are considered to be this great thing, I have destroyed it. I have obliterated it in my stomach.
Yeah, good. Brooklyn.
It's kind of like the feeling when like it's like little kids on a playground and like one of them like loves bugs and then one just goes and like they're looking at a bug and like someone just goes and like steps on it to spite them.
And I think what we're hearing is that juxtaposition between the two words at the end of each line, eaten plums. And that poetry does that for us, where we want to compare the words at the end of the lines. I've never seen this before. So the eaten, bless you. The eaten is a terrible word. I don't know. The more I say it, the more I hate it. Eaten. Eaten.
We're Yukon.
Eaten. Okay, either way, I don't love it. But plums I love. So I think this idea of like someone squashing the experience of the plums is really good because it's like the ugliness of eaten combined with the beautifulness of plums. Okay, and they were in the icebox. All right, you guys talked a lot about icebox. Icebox gives us quite a bit about the setting here, doesn't it?
Yeah, icebox were made in 1803, so it has to be more into the past.
Okay, good. So we know that this is like a more old-fashioned kind of setting. William Carlos Williams is writing right around that time, 1909 to 1939. It's right around that time when iceboxes are still, a thing, and so we kind of know this is, for him, a contemporary poem then. Ella?
Oh, I just had this idea, sorry.
Yeah.
So, since iceboxes were made back into the past in 1803, that's when people started moving to more cities because, like, New York started gaining more popularity with the movement. And when they moved there, there was less iceboxes being used because there was less transportation. So the fact that they have an icebox tells us that they're not in the city and they're farther away from more popularized things and more trading places. So they're more in like the farming country where there might be less availability to those plants.
Oh, I love that. And I think this idea that they're out in the country too gives us a kind of serenity to the scene a little bit, even though this man is doing this very violent action of eating someone's plums. There is like a kind of beauty just to that first stanza, and I think Icebox points us in that direction a little bit. Jada?
I think the fact that the other person put the plums in the icebox makes it even more violent of an action because they took the time to do this and they truly cared about the plums.
Good.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have put them in the icebox.
And you only put plums in the icebox once they're to the point of ripeness.
Yes, when you're ready to eat them.
No.
It just makes it even more horrible.
Yeah,
This is
and
like the most
and
horrible
see how
one
that
ever.
first stanza, who is the subject of the first stanza? I, right? And yet here it's referring to these, somehow these plums got in the icebox, right? There's no like, which you put in the icebox. The speaker here has kind of erased the agent in the first stanza, right? They just appeared here. I feel like this is how my husband sometimes feels, like, oh, this food just appeared here in this refrigerator. We try to have a more equal marriage, but like, gender roles just still exist sometimes.
You should
But like,
separate. This is my stuff.
I should write my name on
Yes,
everything,
and
right?
so-
Like my gummy bears.
So it's like if you're living with roommates or if you're at
Yes.
your place, then like if someone eats your food, you like punch them in the face.
No, you
Yeah.
shake somebody.
You
Well,
shake them.
Actually, and this points me to something here, which is by taking charge of this action of eating and yet not assigning an agent to the "we're in the icebox." He does it in a little bit next stanza, but like not assigning that agent who put it there. I think it becomes slightly gendered, the poem. I start to think of the man eating the plums and the woman putting it in the icebox, and that's because the icebox is in a traditionally feminine domestic setting. It's in the kitchen. Yeah, Allie Rose.
Okay, so this morning I finished my essay, like, and I was working on it for 3 whole freaking hours,
Uh-huh.
and I finished it right at 6:59.
Uh-huh.
I go downstairs to my freezer, and I open up my freezer, and I went to Cafe Rio like 2 days ago, bought horchata, and then I put it in the freezer because I couldn't finish the entire thing.
Okay, so you're gonna have a frozen
And then-
horchata. Sounds
Yeah, so I
good.
was gonna have frozen horchata, and it wasn't gonna go bad.
Yeah.
It's not in the freezer, and someone took it out. And this reminds me exactly how this
I knew
is.
something
feel.
happened to you recently to start this.
Cause like I can feel for the other person. 'Cause, like
Yeah.
you put in the effort and you're so excited, and maybe this person has been working all morning. Maybe
Yeah.
It's like if they've been like in the countryside, maybe this person has been like doing all like the cows and like taking care of like the animals,
Good. They were saving
hard.
them, right? Yeah.
saving hard, working hard, and then they get to the icebox, and they're like, I finally get this sweet treat that I can like bring with me,
Yeah.
and then it's not there. I
Like we're
cried.
Yes. Good. And then you see, let's say this is like this I was referring to. Let's pretend this is like a note on the icebox. Right? So you might see this note that you've been looking forward to your frozen horchata so much. You get to that icebox and you see the title, "This is just to say."
I ate you.
Why?
You're infuriated.
Why would why would the person put it in there? Why would there just be like horchata? Why would there be plums in the icebox?
Yeah.
If it wasn't for saving it or.
Well,
eating
and
it?
that's what's so interesting, right? So the first stanza, he erases
Very
this
mad.
subject. And in the second stanza, he acknowledges that, which you were probably saving for breakfast. So it's like he knows that he has done something, or the speaker knows that they have done something horribly wrong. But they break it up into 2 stanzas. Remember?
If it was kind of alluding to genders,
Yeah.
like not talking about her,
Uh-huh.
then it was probably she's setting it for their breakfast instead of just
Ah.
hers. Like it doesn't say for your breakfast.
For
So
breakfast.
He was probably gonna eat it with her at some point. Like that was her plan to be like nice,
What if it was
but she just ate all of them, and so it was like greedy and inconsiderate.
Yes, and it's like he denies her the pleasure of eating the plums. He also denies her the communal experience of having breakfast together.
Yeah.
So it's also like he's also destroying their marriage. Why do you think he breaks it up, though? Why do you think that this is in 3 stanzas? The first one with the icebox, and then it goes into what the owner of the plums, speculating about the owner of the plums, Ella?
I kind of see it in the way that it goes, like how people consider like their apologies. Like at the first one, it's like, oh, I don't really care. The second one's more like, oh, maybe this was a bad choice. I kind of feel bad. And then the last one is it's like, oh, I'm actually apologizing.
Ah, good. Now, I do want to, Brooklyn, yeah.
Just like, I mean, like what you were probably saving for breakfast, and we talked about with Crime and Punishment, like premeditated murder. This is like premeditated crime.
Yes,
Because
good.
he's like, well, I kind of knew that, like, this wasn't right, but I didn't.
Good. So there's a lack of like sympathy kind of in that second part, even as he's acknowledging the other person. We have to rush through this because I do want to move on to a different poem next time. But that "forgive me," you guys have been suggesting that "forgive me" is totally sarcastic or ironic. You're like, oh, he's not really sorry. He just needs her to forgive him so that they can continue their lives and he can continue to eat her pudding horchata plums. And then he says they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. What do you make of that? Yeah.
Okay, so with the last like sentence, with the
Yeah.
last line being "and so cold,"
Yeah.
that like takes us back to the icebox where like put in so much effort just to have a cold, sweet treat, especially something cold. Cause like if they have an ice box, then it's probably like summertime, or
Yeah.
probably sometime like hot. And so,
They're gonna be a relief.
yeah, they're gonna be a relief.
So refreshing.
He-
So do you think he's just rubbing it in her face?
Yes.
He's just like, don't forgive me, actually. I don't care about you at all.
I'm a deplorable human.
I'm just gonna tell you how delicious they were. Let me offer a different sort of interpretation just as we end here, and normally I would spend more time justifying this, but could he, to go back to Brooklyn's brilliant comments about the justice part, could the poem be a stand-in for the experience of eating the plums? That this person is saying, yes, I ate them. I am a bad person. I'm so sorry. But let me just tell you about it so that you can feel those sensations at least secondhand now that
No.
the plums are gone.
No.
No? Okay, fair. You're too angry for this.